All right, guys, we got the latest episode of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We saw Kyle and Mauricio at the gun range. We saw Sutton and her mom, her big, beautiful house in Augusta. Things got a little weird between Sutton's mom, Reba, and Garcelle. What else? We saw Kathy Hilton, the influencer, and I'm about to get to that. You'll see her beautiful limoncello, lemony Italian dinner for Doritos, for Erika and Bose. A lot of tea was spilled at that dinner. And I think this was a very important episode in Dorit's storyline. And we'll get to some of the things that were said in the after show as well. And the shade towards PK. Ooh, that was good. Guys, we're going to get into the episode recap, all of that. Before we do, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? I cover all things Real Housewives, Bravo, and some good pop culture tea. With that said, let's get into it. All right, so we start off at the gun range with Kyle and Maurizio, and I thought it was funny how they kind of like dress similar. In this shot, I know Kyle is tiny, but just like being there in this outfit and besides Maurizio, I'm like, oh my God, Kyle is like tiny, teeny tiny. Anyways, this was kind of an awkward scene. They both seem a little bit emotional. Um, Once again, she's asking him about the condo. Kyle, the guy is okay. He has cutlery. He has 1,000 thread count sheets. There's women going in and out of that condo. Don't worry about the condo. And to my knowledge, a few weeks ago, months ago, when Kyle was on Watch What Happens Live, she did say she hasn't been to Maurizio's condo yet. But honestly, does Kyle even need to show up at Maurizio's condo? And then in the last episode, Kyle talked about how the girls sometimes stay over at his condo and how alone she feels in that big house with all the dogs. This was very emotional seeing these two together, but watching these two, it's a little bit confusing. But in the after show, Kyle also explains how it's confusing and complicated because usually when couples split up, whether it's married couples divorcing or just, couples splitting up, there's a level of, okay, we're splitting up, there's some sort of anger, there's proper separation, and people go their separate ways. But in this case, it seems like they're not cutting the cord with one another. There's a level of codependency and it sounds like they haven't had those hard convos when it comes to dissolving their marriage and separating all their assets. And it seems like they're both kind of like kicking the can. It's like let's just get along. Like one of their daughters just got engaged. There's a wedding that they have to plan, important dates and events that are coming up. It sounds like they've kind of started, but they kind of haven't. Now we have to remember this couple has been together for almost 30 years. That's 30 years worth of like memories that they shared. There's 30 years worth of, assets and memories and things and stuff and accounts and holding companies and houses and God knows what else. Obviously, they have their Aspen house. And I know Kyle has said in interviews before these two separating, divorcing, whatever, it'll be a split, 50% right down the middle. Because when they got together in their early 20s, they didn't really have much. So they truly built this empire together. So if you think about Jeff Bezos, Mackenzie did very well in their split, as she should, and as she did. Because when Bezos was young, Mackenzie was with him all the way. From the very beginning. So she got a considerable amount. So in this case, yes, Maurizio started the agency, but Kyle was there from the beginning. So she is, she's going to get half and it's well deserved. But let's just think about that house in Aspen. As much as they say we're just going to cut everything, split everything in half, you can't cut a house in half. Like let's be for real here. So for these two with the amount of assets they have, the properties and whatever else, all the different accounts, they're lawyers and accountants. It's going to take some time to divvy up everything. And as much as these two could technically just be hands free and leave it up to, the lawyers and accountants and they can figure it out and make it equitable. But no, they still need to be involved. Like, okay, I want the house here. I want X amount from there. These two are like, you know what? Let's just live life. Everything's good now. We'll just deal with those conversations down the road. However, However, much like how PK has changed and Dorit is getting a very different version of him overnight, Kyle should still be prepared. Even her girlfriends are telling her, even Sutton's telling her, like, hey, you need to like get a lawyer and start these conversations. You never know. Maurizio could, once he's done with the 20 something, 30 something Instagram models, he could maybe find someone that's like, I don't know, 38, 41, someone beautiful, someone accomplished. He could maybe take that George Clooney path where, after a bunch of, after a string of women, he finds someone with substance and a little bit more age appropriate. And then he's like, okay, Kyle, like, we gotta, divvy everything up. Let's get a move. I don't know. This is very hard to watch, and honestly, who knows? Maybe Kyle did something, and Maurizio can't forgive her, and that's why she's so emotional and crying, and they're like hugging each other. Or maybe it's Maurizio. Maybe he did something that was so awful, where Kyle is like, you know what? I have let a lot of things aside all these years, but I can't with this one. I just can't forgive you with this one, and this is why they are separated, but like not quite fully separated. Anyways, you guys let me know what your thoughts are on these two, but let's move on. All right, we get a little clip between these two, Bose and her man. And Bose is what, 46, 47 at this point of filming. And her wanting to carry a child, three children apparently, is something that she wants to at least try to give this man. My understanding is this man has no children of his own. So he would, if he marries Bose right away, Bose already has a daughter, and then they would expand this family. Here's the thing. It sounds like Bose wants to do it right. First comes love, then comes marriage, and then a baby in the carriage. She wants to, take that traditional path. And for her to have these conversations and to go to the doctor and to do all these things, and for her not to even have a ring on her finger, like they're not even engaged. Okay. So I don't know. It's giving rent a boyfriend, which is a thing we've seen on Real Housewives across all franchises. But if she's been seeing this man for a while, well before she got casted on the show, then I'm sure this is genuine. But unfortunately, women's bio clock is a thing. So if she wants to have a child with this man, maybe there's other ways, other avenues they could look into. But is he going to propose to her? I don't know. Last I checked, I don't think these two are even engaged yet. So, whatever. It's cute that they give us little scenes between her and her man. But I'll be quite honest, I'm more interested in Bose, in her career, her accolades, her confessionals, her reads when it comes to her and how she is maneuvering this new friend group. When we get little scenes between her and her man, I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, let's continue. That's cute. This is cute, but I'm like not that into it. All right, so Sutton takes Garcelle and Kyle to her house in Augusta. And it's a beautiful house, and that's the house Sutton got in her divorce. And that house, her mom, Reba, lives in the back. All right, so the girls get there. Kyle and Garcelle, they meet Reba, Sutton's mom. Reba seems a little cold, and right off the bat, people are like, "Oh, so this is where Sutton gets her Suttonness." By the way, guys, I actually met Sutton. She's beautiful in real life, and she does have some interesting mannerisms. I'll just put it at that. I do think some of her mannerisms, what you see on the show, is what you get. I mean, I only met her for like a couple minutes and chatted with her for a couple minutes. So what do I know? But from my personal experience, those couple minutes, you do see those Suttonisms on TV, and it does translate to TV. But anyways, so the awkward gifting. I felt so bad for Garcelle. When you're like so excited to gift someone something, whether you're meeting them for a first time, you're meeting someone for the first time, or, it's a gift that you thought about for your good girlfriend. I think even Garcelle said she went to Saks, she picked up the scarf, she got it wrapped, she brought it all the way on that commercial flight, gave it to Sutton's mom, and Sutton's mom is like, oh, I can use it as like a sarang. And I'm sure this is an expensive scarf. So it was really awkward. Like, at least fake it and say, like, how excited you are that you got this scarf. So that was very awkward. And I loved Garcelle's little shade. I think it was in her confessional where she's like, maybe I should have been like Kyle and brought nothing. And then at the end, as Sutton, Garcelle, Kyle, they met Reba, they're going away. And I don't know how they got to talking about children, but Reba's like, oh, Sutton's son James. I think James is the youngest. How he's the weird one. And then Garcelle's like, when you're like kind of nervous and you're kind of like trying to relate to someone, and then you say, "Oh yeah, me too." I think Garcelle had one of those moments where she's like, "Oh yeah, I also had a weird one." And then the producer's like, so which one of your children is weird? And then in her confessional, she's like, I don't know, referring to Jax. And then Kyle is like, wait, should I also say I have a weird kid? Like, just to like add to the bit, like to the conversation. I don't know. It seems like these grown women in their 50s were on pins and needles around Reba, which I thought was so funny. And these are like some boss women. So that was a very interesting dynamic. But let's move on. All right, so the girls make it to dinner, Garcelle, Kyle, and Sutton is like just loving sharing some of her favorite spots in Augusta. They go to this Italian restaurant. Apparently, this restaurant has been in the family for 3 generations. According to Kyle, the pizza looks good, great. They settle down. Um, Erika felt really upset that she didn't get to go on this trip because it's Garcelle, Kyle, Sutton, and it would make sense for Erika to go on the trip because apparently she's 90 miles north of Augusta. She's a Southern girl as well. And It's like, you know what? For Sutton, it's like me and Erika, we're just getting to a better place, and this is a very emotional trip for me. Cool, great. She shares about Reba, her mom, and Christian, her ex husband, how it all went down during their divorce. And Sutton feels kind of hurt. Like, what the heck? Like, Reba's thinking of herself and where she's going to live and if her lifestyle is going to be the same. Because Christian, I guess, her ex husband, took care of everything. And so Reba's worried for herself, and Sutton felt really hurt. Not only that, her mom would call her ex husband Christian while they were going through the process of separation and divorce, and they got even closer. So for Sutton, it's like, what the heck? That's like a slap in the face. And even now, if Christian, her husband, does something or her ex husband does something, I don't know, newsworthy, where he's literally like on the news. Reba's like, oh, look what he did. Meanwhile, Sutton's store in, what is it, in West LA or wherever it is, I'm working hard on my business, and she doesn't seem to give enough. Okay, how do we explain this to Sutton? Sutton's store, to the rest of us, it seems like a passion project. We don't actually know if it pays the bills. Do you know what I mean? And she was able to start it with the 300,000 that she gets from Christian. And then Kyle jumps in. I think it was in the confessional or in the after show. Kyle was basically like, yeah, Reba's like, she's an older lady. She's probably thinking of where she's going to live. So it is a little bit understandable why Sutton's mom maybe behaved or acted the way she did while Sutton and Christian were, separating, getting a divorce. This old lady is thinking, oh my God, where am I going to live? Am I going to be taken care of? It's understandable. Look, in the end, I get where Sutton's mom is coming from. She's a little worried, like, what's going to happen to her. But at the same time, I also get Sutton. It's kind of like, hold up. I'm getting a divorce from this man. That man is not your child. I'm your child. You need to pick my side and be on my side. Why are you chumming up to the man I'm like divorcing? So look, I get both sides. Now, Sutton keeps saying this is a very emotional trip for her. I'm going to assume we haven't really seen the emotional bits of this trip on this episode. This is just day one. This is just night one. So I'm going to assume the emotional parts of this trip we will get in the next episode. All right, guys, we got to get to the meat and potatoes of this episode. But before we do get to Kathy's dinner, we got to talk about Kathy, the influencer that she is. Now, at Kathy's dinner with Dorit, Bose, and Erika, I'm thinking to myself, why does she have what is it, the chief of staff, the chief of branding, all the people that Kathy has working for her? Not just the folks that like bring out the food and, make it pretty, but why was like a branding manager there? Like, what the heck was going on? This is just a small dinner for a couple girlfriends, just the three of the ladies. Why does it have to be so over the top? Now, Kathy is one of the few celebs, people in the public eye that I personally follow, like on my personal account for a very long time. This was actually a partnership with a brand called Wonderful Seedless. And I guess, I don't know, it's lemons. They sell lemons. And if you're not following Kathy Hilton, you need to, because her Instagram is beautifully curated. She works with a lot of interesting brands in like the home decor aesthetic space, or she has luxury partnerships with like, I don't know, she's like a brand ambassador for like Max Mara. So hers is one of the accounts that I truly enjoy. It's just beautiful. It's just aesthetic. Now back to Seedless. So these were some of the images posted on her Instagram. It's just beautiful, the lemons, they're seedless lemons. It was beautifully decorated. This is content. So she's like one of the smartest women on the show. She's in a friend of role. She is doing partnerships with these companies outside of the show. So she's filming for the show, but while she's doing a partnership with this other company, she's also creating content while being on the show and filming for the show, if you guys know what I mean. It's very meta. Anyways, thought I would share this. It's just beautiful. I have no other words. It is simply beautiful. Anyways, guys, let's get into the meat and potatoes, which is Kathy's dinner. All right, so the ladies come in, they sit down, and they just start, I don't know, eating their bread. Kathy tells the ladies she's part Chinese from 3000 BC, and then she's also part Italian. And Bose, I absolutely love Bose's reactions whenever Kathy says something like so absurd and like so out there, because Bose is like us. Bose is basically a representation of like me and you, if we were, I don't know, sitting in front of Kathy and she was saying all these things. And then they're like, well, how do you know this? And she's like, oh, it was some lady. I don't know, Kathy, she does provide comedic relief. And then her comedic relief continues because, excuse me, Kathy's like, how old is PK? Dorit's like, 56. Kathy's like, when I first met him, I thought he was 56. And again, Bose's reactions, the smoothest shade I have ever heard. And then it continues. And, Dorit starts saying more about the things between her and PK. Kathy's like, you couldn't help but love PJ. Erika's like, PK. Anyways, it's a lot of comedic relief. I sometimes don't know if this is kind of an act or like she really is just, this is her. She is so removed from reality where she's just living her best life, having caviar on potato, or what was it? Caviar on baked potato. I don't know. I find her really fun and funny on the show. But let's get to Doritos. Poor Doritos. So as the night continues, Dorit talks about PK, how he like sent her this like email. It was like 7 pages, and he was basically, it was almost a threat when it came to the finances, custody, and according to him, she will now be responsible for paying for the house. Guys, the house in real life, like this current day and age, the house, my understanding, is in pre foreclosure, which means you've missed a couple payments. As long as you pay it, you'll be fine. Your house is not going to be in foreclosure. So at this point in real life, their house is in foreclosure. I guess PK wants Dorit to pick up the bill, and Dorit is like, oh, hell no. Now, the girls are giving her some tough love and saying, look, this is not the same man. You need to get a lawyer. At any day he can like serve you papers. And even Dorit in her confessional is like, I like, she said something to the extent like any day he could just give her papers, and everything's going to change. So she's seeing a version of him she's never seen before. Erika is giving tough love. And then they talk about the, the the 10 years in California. If you've been married to someone for 10 years, spousal support, then they need to pay you indefinitely. And it seems like PK is trying to get rid of Dorit prior to the 10 years. So at this point of filming, they have been married for about 9.5 years. I don't know if PK has served her any papers or what's going on in real life. I haven't seen anything posted. I feel like all the internet sleuths, if PK or Dorit, if either of them filed, I'm sure we would hear about it now. So it's safe to say they've been married for 10 years or almost 10 years. We'll see. TBD on the 10-year thing. But here Dorit is like finally, I think, getting it. Like, holy shit, like I gotta like get my act together. And we see it clicking for her in the confessional, and we see it clicking for her in the after show. Now, in the confessional, Dorit is like, holy crap, like, if I have to go to war, I have to go to war. And in the after show, Dorit clarified the question about PK being a good father. Because on the show, Kathy asked Doritos, is PJ a good father? And Doritos, I think to all of our surprise, said no. Like even Kathy was like, "Oh, I was not expecting that answer. I thought you were going to say, yeah, he is a good father." And Dorit admits, you know what? I have been covering his ass for the longest time. Um, there's a lot of things where I made it seem like everything's great, but it's not. And she said, like, these kids, they don't see their father for a while. And she pretends like, oh, daddy's trying to call, he's trying to see you, but really he's like at a wedding or he's not picking up the calls. Like he's just acting very absurd. And Erica's like, look, you gotta like get your shit together. I've never seen a woman have a peaceful divorce unless the guy dies. Tough love from Erika, tough love from Bose. Dorit needs to get it together. And I can't remember if it was in the after show or on Watch What Happens Live when Kathy asked Doritos about PK being a good father, and Doritos said, no. Kyle was like, I know PK. I don't think he's a bad father. Like, I'm sure Dorit said it in the heat of the moment. The problem with Kyle, you can't talk out of both sides of your mouth. You're saying you don't know Dorit that well, PK that well, and now you're saying you do. You don't know much about their marriage separation, but now you're saying you do know PK. He is a good guy. And then Dorit in the after show said, look, in the heat of the moment, I did say he's not a good father. He is a good father. Could he be a better father? Sure. Yeah. I mean, just because you're there and you do certain things to be there, that's kind of like baseline. But if PK's not even going to be around his two small kids, is he even meeting baseline? Now, I did see a comment. I think it was on Bravo posted one of these clips, and it was someone on TikTok that commented, PK left his first wife, he left his kids, he got a younger wife, and now he's going to do the same thing to Doritos. He's going to leave her and the kids, and then he's just going to get a younger wife who he can control. Look, that is all speculative. We don't know what PK is going through or what his plans are, or if he's just taking it day to day. But at the end of the day, our girl Doritos, she needs to get her act together. And I'm so glad Erika is in her corner. And Erika isn't in her corner as like, I don't know, like a castmate, friend of the show. I do think Erika is her real friend, and she needs girls like Erika in her life to give her tough love and get her ish together. Guys, this was a good episode. I enjoyed it. We got to see a lot of the inner workings when it comes to Sutton and more of what's going on with Doritos and PK. The mid-season trailer looked amazing. I can't wait to watch the rest of the season. You guys let me know your thoughts on this episode, and I will catch you all later.